Vampire moth. In the night forests of Malaysia, it settles on the flank of a water buffalo, sets a barbed proboscis against the hide, and drills straight through. A male can stay there drinking blood for a full hour. Sambar deer, tapirs, and nilgai antelope are open the same way. The proboscis works like a drill. It splits into two halves that take turns, one anchoring while the other cuts, driven by a rocking motion of the whole head, and small hooks swing out to lock the tip in place as blood wells up around it. Only males do this. The habit appears to have grown out of a mouthpart built for piercing fruit, and what the male gains from a blood meal is still unsettled, since it does not make him live any longer. His choice of victim is narrow, limited to big, calm animals with thin hair, like tapirs and rhinos. A deep puncture in a small or thickly furred animal would hurt enough to turn the moth into prey. Of the 17 or so species in this group, somewhere between 8 and 10 have been caught drinking mammal blood in the wild. On a human arm, the bite leaves a red, sore welt. Eurasian vampire moth. That welt has been raised on purpose, on a volunteer's own thumb, by the Eurasian vampire moth. In 2006, in the far east of Russia, a captured moth was offered a bare thumb, and within minutes it had worked through the skin and was feeding. It is the only member of its group living in Europe, and for a long time it passed as a harmless fruit piercer. Feeding on human blood has since been confirmed in the field and in the laboratory both. Only a handful of species in the whole group have ever been recorded taking blood from people specifically. No case of disease passed on by this moth or by any of its blood-drinking relatives has ever been documented. Before it drills, the moth grazes the tip of its proboscis across the skin, lapping at moisture, hunting for a crease or a fold. Then the tip goes in and stays in. A single bout on a human arm can run 20 minutes without the moth pulling free. Tear moth of Southeast Asia. Blood is an occasional meal for those two. The tear moth of Southeast Asia takes one fluid and lives on nothing else. In the forest of Thailand, it spends its adult life at the eyes of cattle and deer, with no nectar and no fruit behind it, only tears. Its proboscis sweeps back and forth across the surface of the eye to keep the flow coming, so the moth produces its own meal. The body is built for the job. A short proboscis and wings that fold flat let several individuals crowd in at a single eye at once, pressed together against the lid. They work on sleeping animals and take the fluid without waking them, apparently without causing pain. Males and females both come to the eyes. Among tear-drinking moths and butterflies, that habit usually belongs to males alone. The reason for all of it is salt. The plant sap its relatives live on carries almost no sodium, and in a tropical forest where the mineral is scarce, a warm eye is a steady supply. Elephant moth of northern Thailand. From the eye of a cow, the habit scales up to the largest animal in the forest, and to the elephant moths of northern Thailand. A mosquito bites an elephant and flies off. Beads of blood are left standing on the hide, and a small moth comes down and drinks them. The same species has been seen taking tears from the elephant's eye and sweat from human skin, moving between 3 fluids and 2 hosts. A second kind works as an elephant's eye until it waters, then drinks what it has caused. A third, found in the same forests, carries a name that means blood eater. All of them were brought to light by one Swiss naturalist who spent decades in Thailand following moths that live on the fluids of elephants and people. Some of these observations rest on very few sightings, made at night, on animals that could not be handled. The moths are perhaps a centimeter across, pale, easy to miss on gray skin. Julia butterfly. All of that happens after dark, on animals asleep or too weak to shake anything off. The Julia butterfly does its work in broad daylight, on animals fully awake. In the western Amazon, it lands on the head of a caiman or a river turtle and beats its wings against the eye until the eye waters, then drinks. It is a butterfly, bright orange, and it is doing the same job as any of the moths before it. The reason is salt again, on a much larger scale. The western Amazon lies more than 1,000 miles from the ocean, and the Andes block the mineral-bearing dust that would otherwise blow in. So the plants there are poor in sodium, and the insects that eat them are poorer still. The turtles and caimans seem barely troubled, since a diet of meat leaves them sodium to spare. Usually it is males that drink tears, and the sodium and protein they collect is handed to the female during mating and goes into her eggs. The sight is common enough there that a single turtle's head can carry a whole cluster of them at once, wings open, feeding. Moose tear moth of Vermont. Every one of these animals lives in the tropics. The moose tear moth of Vermont works in a forest that freezes solid every winter. In 2025, a trail camera in the northern woods caught a moth landing at the eye of a wild moose and drinking its tears, the first such record anywhere for a moose. The sequence runs 4 minutes and 80 frames. It surfaced inside a set of more than 247,000 moose photographs taken across 4 states, and in all of them, it is the only trace of the behavior. The moth itself has no name. From its size and shape in the pictures, it can be placed only in the family of geometer moths. Outside the tropics, there is one earlier record, a single moth at the eye of a horse in Arkansas in 1972. Half a century separates the two sightings. Moose in that region already carry crushing loads of ticks, and the moth moving between eyes could pass an eye infection from one animal to the next, though that link is unproven. Why a moth in a cold northern forest seeks tears at all remains open, since temperate tear drinkers appear to be chasing sodium while their tropical relatives often go after proteins.